Hey guys, what's up? Ruben here from the Midnight Garage. So I'm pretty sure that most of you guys want to see a lot more of Kanjo related videos, and they're coming, don't worry about that. But the Osaka Auto Messe was a big show and there was a lot of stuff that I thought was very cool. So first up I want to wrap that up, and then later on we're going to continue some more Kanjo related stuff. So let's start right now with the other stuff that I've seen at the Osaka Auto Messe. The first cars that I want to talk about were the Skylines that I've seen on the show. It really was jarring to see the amount of Skylines parked at the Osaka Auto Messe. Some of you guys know that I'm not really a big fan of the Nissan Skyline model, but I know that I'm definitely a minority in that case. I might do a video on that in the future explaining why I'm not a big Skyline fan, but one of the reasons is that I think that most Skylines here in Holland pretty much look the same. If I drive around Holland, I usually come across a base model R33 or R34, usually in silver or white, probably rocking some replica wheels. It's not really that interesting, but in comparison to that, the Skylines that I've seen at the Osaka Auto Messe were a whole lot cooler than that. I have seen R34s with crazy body kits like this orange one, a slammed R34 GTR on air ride, an incredibly wild R33, and some of them even had pretty wild turbo setups like this HKS R33. Classic HKS demo cars aside, if I had to pick a favorite on the show, it had to be this trio of classic Skylines by Eastball. Eastball brought a Hakusuka, a Canmary and a C210, all painted in what appears to be Nardo grey. They all had classic deep dish wheels and were rocking yellow headlight details, which I thought looked amazing, especially in combination with the grey. Even though the C210 had more of a Bose Zoku feel compared to the other two, I still thought that this trio of Skylines was one of the best on the show. But enough about Skylines, let's talk about its main competitor in terms of JDM hype culture following, the Toyota Supra. Whereas I've seen a lot of Skylines driving around in Japan, I have not seen a single Toyota Supra so far. I'm not quite sure why that is. Maybe it's because the Toyota Supra is slightly less practical than a four-door Skyline, or people started hoarding them to ship to America under the 25-year rule. Just like I can't find any Supras on the road, it was a lot harder to find them at the Osaka Auto Messe as well. The only ones I have found were some classic racing cars that were parked around the stand where they were promoting the new BMW Z3, I mean the Toyota Supra Mark V. Having owned multiple Supras before in both turbo and non-turbo configuration, I think I have enough right to say that I absolutely hate this generation Toyota Supra. I could rant on and on about why I hate this model, but the simple fact is that it just doesn't have the same impact compared to the older models when they came out. It's even slower than the Mark IV, which came out almost 30 years ago. If they had given it a different name, I might have liked this BMW Toyota hybrid a bit more, but right now it just feels as though Toyota does not even care about the legacy of their own models. But who am I to complain? Seeing the lukewarm reception of the Mark V Supra just means that my Mark IV will be worth even more in the future. The next group of cars I spotted at the Osaka Auto Messe were the K-fans and K-trucks. K-car culture is something that's intrinsically Japanese, and it's something that I really like. I definitely checked these cute little K-trucks and vans out just for some inspiration for my own little Honda Acti project. Because these little cars do not have the hype associated to them in comparison to the Nissan Skyline and the Toyota Supra, people in general do not care if these cars are stock or not. And that's how you come up with wide-body Suzuki trucks wearing a classic Hakusuka Skyline livery, trucks with more neon lights than an 80s synthwave video, and other general weirdness. I was a big fan of the trucks by K-Brake with the massive Takayari exhausts and the outdoor-inspired trucks by Hard Cargo. For those of you who do not know, it is in fact not allowed to buy a car in Japan unless you have your own parking spot. These little K-cars are the exception to this rule, and this, in addition to massive tax advantages, makes the K-car a huge hit in Japan. Even though these cars are a lot cheaper, smaller and slower than regular cars in Japan, they still are big business, and that's why you see these wildly creative builds. I now have a lot of new inspiration and ideas that I can't wait to incorporate into my own little Honda Acti project, and most of these ideas are related to the exterior and lights of the car, as one thing I thought that these cars were lacking were the interior aspect. With the exception of a few, they mostly had stock interiors, and that is a good segue into the next group of cars. The next group of cars that I spotted were the luxury vans that were parked all around the Osaka Auto Messe. Like I said, you cannot buy a car in Japan unless you have your own parking spot, so most people realistically can only get away with one car. And if you only have one car in the family, it might as well be something practical, right? That is why you see a huge surge in the van market in Japan, and that was definitely noticeable at the car show. A few years ago, the Yakuza noticed that it was a lot less conspicuous if you rolled up in a van compared to the old VIP sedans they used to drive in. This is one of the reasons why most modified vans in Japan are now modified in style of the classic VIP cars. How does that turn out? Actually quite well. It turns out that all that extra space makes it a whole lot easier to install a huge audio installation, luxury massage seat and even refrigerators for your champagne bottles. Being inside one of these vans gave me more the feeling that I was in a first-class airplane rather than in the back of a van. This luxury culture is something that I definitely do not see in the Netherlands, but given the large amount of vans in Holland, it would definitely be cool if people would adopt this form of modification more over here as well. Although I do not nearly have enough space to make something like this in my Acti, I will definitely see if I can go and incorporate some of these ideas as well. So now that most people have moved on from the VIP sedans to the luxury vans, does that mean that the classic VIP style sedans are less popular? If I had to take a guess based on the cars at the Auto Messe, I would have to say no. VIP cars and VIP styled cars were parked literally everywhere. A few years ago you only had a VIP car if your car was built on a certain platform, such as the Toyota Aristo and the Nissan President, for example. You could have a car that was built exactly to spec, but if it was not one of the classic VIP platforms, it would not have been considered a true VIP car, but rather a VIP styled car. However, a few years ago, people with VIP cars started to incorporate design cues from Supercars, so all of a sudden you started seeing VIP cars in crazy colors, with wild titanium exhausts and lots of fans everywhere. In the meanwhile, people with different platforms started to build cars that looked like proper classic VIP cars, so you started getting a weird mix of cars that did not look like VIP cars but were considered VIP cars, and cars that did look like VIP cars but were not considered classic VIP cars. Throw the luxury vans in the mix that you've seen before and the fact that the Yakuza have moved on from these classic sedans to the bigger vans, and that makes the whole VIP car culture a lot more complex than it was before. One thing is for sure though, Japanese love luxury items in their cars. It does not matter if that car is an actual VIP car, a van, a K-truck or even a sports car, you see VIP elements added to all kinds of cars. It's probably one of the reasons that you see a lot of junction produce and Garson Dad products for sale in every up garage and auto backs. Like I said, modern VIP cars started taking design cues from modern supercars, so I think it's reasonable to take a look at the supercars that were parked on the show as well. The cars I liked most were the race cars that various brands brought with them. My personal favorite was a classic Daihatsu race car that kind of resembled a Ford GT mixed with some classic Alfa Romeos that I had never seen before or have heard of. But of course there were regular supercars as well. If you thought that a BMW i8 was not wide enough, then the Osaka Auto Messe had a solution for you. Most of the supercars that were parked at the Auto Messe were of various Lamborghini models though. I did spot a lot of Lamborghini Aventadors, Gallardos and Huracans. Now I know what you think, and that is that Lamborghinis and other supercars look rather tame. Well, you are in luck, because most of these supercars were modified with crazy paint, a different interior and more extreme bumpers. I mean, can you imagine how embarrassing it would be if somebody with a supercar that looked exactly the same as yours showed up next to you on the red light? Oh, the horror. There were some other brands of supercars as well, such as for example the new Honda NSX, various Maserati models and even a couple of Rauwelt Porsches, but it was mainly the Lamborghinis that dominated the show. So far we have seen a lot of different styles, and if you ever wondered how everything would look if you mixed everything together, you had to check out Liberty Walk. Liberty Walk had a little bit of everything, from crazy white Lamborghinis to Skylines and classic Ferraris. They even brought some of the strangest stuff, such as for example the latest Suzuki Jimny modified to look like a Mercedes G-Wagon. Next to all this, they also brought one of the more obscure Mitsuoka sports cars with them. And the new Daihatsu Kopen that was modified to look like a Nissan GTR. That body kit apparently was very popular because I had seen a lot of these baby GTRs on the show. Liberty Walk also was one of the few stands that had brought a couple of Kyushu cars with them as well. Kyushas and Bosozoku cars were very rare, and to be honest that was one of the only letdowns at this show. There were some of course, but not as many as I had hoped. I already showed you the awesome Skyline trio before and the ones from Liberty Walk, but other than that they were hard to find. I did find the Bosozoku fan, an awesome Soarer, and a car with a shark nose that had been modified so much that I could not even make sense of what it used to be. If you can tell me what the yellow and purple car used to be, then post it in the comments below. Finally, I want to give a shout out to Fumaran for bringing this awesome Mark II Volkswagen Golf. If I ever were to do a Volkswagen project, it would probably end up looking a lot like this. I also wanted to give a shout out to Cool Racing for bringing these awesome cars. I already had seen pictures of the Impala before, but it really is something that you have to see for yourself in order to believe it. They also brought a Nissan GTR with the classic lowrider livery, which kind of matches the Impala, of course. If you want to see extreme bodywork and paint jobs in Japan, then Cool Racing is definitely something for you to check out. And that almost concludes my coverage of the Osaka Auto Messe. I did want to do a third part where I wanted to check out some of the cars that were parked outside, as these car shows usually bring out some pretty cool cars to the local parking lots. I did do that, but it was not enough in my eyes to make a separate video about that, so instead I will just add it to the end of this video, so make sure you keep watching if you want to see those cars as well. This was by far the biggest video I had to make, as I had around 40 gigabytes in footage, and I had definitely noticed that my poor old laptop cannot handle this many files anymore. I think it's a good time for me to upgrade my computer as well, and I am probably going for a custom built desktop, as it will probably be able to handle these big files a lot better in the future. I do have a backlog of videos right now, so expect more soon, and hopefully those videos will come out a bit faster than this one. Anyways, that's everything I wanted to say. Stick around if you want to see the cars parked outside. Thanks for watching and see you guys next time. Bye.